Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live stream Saturday. I hope that you guys have had a good week and that your weekend has started well as well. So, starting the live stream tonight with Unwanted Stranger as requested over on Patreon. And hello to you guys in the live chat room tonight. Who do we have in there? We have Mimi321, Tammy, Laurie, Cindy, Lisa, Ro, Ginny, Joe, Karen, Vince, Bob, Arlene, Ruth, Laura, Howard, Gail, B, and it's gone through too quickly. So, hello everybody, thank you for joining me tonight. And let's get the names of my patrons up on screen. Just see their names. They make this all possible. The reason that I'm stopping is I feel like I've got something in my mouth, but I don't know what it is. Anyway, let's get my patrons up on screen. I know that there aren't any flies in here, so I don't think a fly has flowed into my mouth. Or maybe it's just like a rogue hair that sometimes, when you have facial hair, sometimes, or actually long hair, there can be one that's just hanging and it's somehow made its way from the side and it's just touching your lip and you think you've got something in your mouth, but you haven't. But anyway, enough about that. Let's get into my patrons who made this all possible in the first place. So, yeah, a massive thank you to you guys at the bottom of the screen. You know who you are, and without them, it wouldn't be possible at all in the first place. So, I think it might be a hair that I've got in my mouth. So, anyway, I'm going to continue. It's very off-putting, but yeah, as I always say, Oh, I almost got it. As I always say, they're the foundation of everything that I do and make this live stream possible, as well as the analysis videos, cover videos, everything that I've done on the channel in the past. I'm tempted to put this thing up on screen if I can find it, because this is the only opportunity that I've had to use it. Oh, here we go. If I click on this, I don't know if there's any sound that comes with this or not, but I thought if anything disastrous happens in the future, it means that I can just put this up on screen and then try and sort out whatever's going on. Obviously, trying to find what... It's really annoying because it's like it's in my mouth, but then it isn't, and then you feel it a little bit, and then you try and find it, and then it isn't. So, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to find it. I just try to, feel where there's a potential hair in my mouth. Obviously, it's not a very long one. If it was one of these, one like this, then I'd get it straight away. So, anyway, let's push forward with tonight's live stream. And as always, we're going to be aiming for the likes goal, which is set at today, is set at 400, because on Tuesday, did we have a bit of a reset? I think we did, or at least we said that we were going to have a reset of the goal, and I can't remember what it was then. Maybe 405 or something, but I thought anyway, 400, nice round number to have as the likes goal for tonight. And if we hit that target, we're going to be having Phil Jam number 241. So if you could hit that thumbs up as you come through the door, that would be very much appreciated. And I can see that, I can see already there's some donations coming through, so thank you guys for those. I will address those in a second, but I will get the likeometer up on screen as well, because we are at 221. So yeah, good start already, halfway through, or halfway past the target of 400 that we're aiming for. So thank you guys for the thumbs up. Of course, if you're watching this in the future, you can still hit the thumbs up. It really does help the channel to grow and for the live streams to get out there a little bit more. I think with the live streams now, we will just get used to them being, I don't know, a little bit more personal, and the audience not quite being as big as it used to be, because YouTube isn't notifying subscribers as much as it did before. I started looking into pitch correction, auto-tune, and mentioning things like that, and especially my authentic vocal project. Once I launched that, it was that was where we hit the wall. But we will keep on pushing forward, and I mean, the thing is, we're still increasing in subscribers, which is good. I mean, there were 1 or 2 days where we had minus subscribers, but yeah, I think we're just going up still a little bit steadily. I think it's just word of mouth really, which is still good. And yeah, we will see where we end up, but they're going to be a little bit more. I guess it's like having an intimate gig, you know, when you play at a very small venue and we just have the select audience there. So that's what these live streams are probably going to be like now in the future. But we all know when they, well, you guys know when they are. Of course, I know when they are because I'm here doing them. But we know, yeah, if you don't know, Saturday and Tuesdays at 11 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. That's where we live stream. Right, so let's get on with... Oh, the donations tab. Let me put that up on screen because you don't have to donate. Just watching is great. So, yeah, thank you guys that do donate. You don't have to, but I think it's important that you know. Between 45 and 60% goes to YouTube through the super chat window, and between 3 and 5% goes to PayPal through the PayPal link, which you can find in the description below. But yeah, just watching is great. Let me address the donations that have come through in the super chat window first. And Valhalla donated £10. Thank you for that. And that was a straight up donation. And Orlando's donated $2 as well. Thank you for that, Orlando. And the message is turnover, 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 rock. So thank you for that. I think that's a reference to the song that we opened up with, Unwanted Stranger. And Orlando then donated $5 again. Thank you for that. The message is, I must catch up later. It is school graduations month in the US. I am at a graduation party. Have fun, everyone. So, maybe it's a bit of dust that I had in my mouth, because I just had a bit of dust that flew past me and I waved it out of the way. I wasn't doing like in Minority Report, which actually, when you think about it, because that was Tom Cruise and he's looking at all the screens and he's going like this and he's moving everything on his arms. I wasn't doing that, but it'd be very handy if I could do that with the setup, getting rid of windows and doing all that kind of stuff. But yeah, he was doing that. I don't know what year that was made, that movie. But then fast forward, and now in VR, you can do all that stuff and, you know, grab windows and move them all over the place and stuff. The only thing is that you have to have this thing stuck to your face. I think Tom Cruise just had glasses, so it looked a bit cooler. But anyway, yeah, thank you for that, Orlando. And Timothy donated $9.99, so thank you for that. And that was a straight-up donation. And Elaine's donated $5, so thank you for that. And the message is, word of mouth or hair in mouth. So thank you for that, Elaine. Right, we are going to be jumping into the PayPal donations as well. And I just want to make sure that I don't miss any out. I think it was Tammy who's just donated £10, or at least maybe an hour or two ago. So thank you for that, Tammy. And that is a straight up donation. And then Mitch Marie has donated $2. £2. Thank you for that. And there's a message with this. It says, "Hi Phil, what is the technique great singers use for belting out strong, powerful notes? Thanks and rock." So thank you for that. And I mean, generally, when singers are belting out strong, powerful notes, it can be one of two things. Either they're genuinely doing it and they're belting in chest voice. That's how you're going to achieve that sound. And the other way of doing it is like using a mixed voice, which is a lot lighter, a lot quieter. But if you've got a microphone, some singers can make it sound like they're belting when in fact they're not actually belting. It's a lot, I guess, a lot safer, but it depends on the singer really, because some singers find that pretending to belt and not actually do it, just doesn't quite feel the same or sound how they want it to sound, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, so when you're using like properly belting and you're using your chest voice is the thing that you're going to get the most, I guess, emotional reaction from, because of the sound of it. It's the closest thing that we can do in singing that is like shouting. And when you shout, that gets people's attention because we're just wired that way in order to hear that particular sound, or somebody projecting their voice like that in a different way to when they're just calmly talking to you. So when somebody's belting, it is very similar to shouting, but you don't just want to be shouting, because generally what will happen when people shout is all from the throat, and all the focus is up here. And this is why when people have done a lot of shouting, they can lose their voice and become, hoarse the next day and have to have maybe a few days off from talking because they've just kind of shredded their vocal cords because they've just been shouting and haven't really been singing. So obviously there's a huge difference between shouting and singing. And this is sometimes the problem, is that singers who are belting all the time, it's because they might not necessarily have great technique. And even if they do have great technique, they still might potentially injure their voice, because it's quite a hardcore way of singing. And that's why a lot of the guys from the 80s who were belting in chest voice, and they're belting up at G4, A4, B4, C5, and sometimes even trying to get a bit higher than that in chest voice, in the studio it was fine because they could sing it have a bit of a rest, and then think, oh, right, we need to do the first line of the chorus again. So they have a rest, they come back and they sing that, and that's it. And they kind of did it in sections. But then when the band were very popular and they now had to do that potentially night after night, it wasn't something that the singer was used to doing. And it might have been the case that doing it night after night, the vocalist starts to think, oh, hang on, I physically can't do this because, yeah, you know, it might be damaging your vocal cords. So anyway, so in terms of technique, what you want to focus on, what I'm talking in here now is chest voice. So, and the reason that I kind of stopped a little bit is because sometimes with guys, it's really easy to know where your chest voice is because that's where you talk. Unless you're doing a Michael Jackson thing and you're talking in your head voice, most guys are going to be talking in their chest voice. But with women, sometimes they naturally talk in their head voice because their voice is kind of in that space and it's up there anyway. But yeah, women will have a chest voice as well. They'll still have the same process that they use in their voice to go through and get their kind of powerful notes in chest voice, and then, you know, get lighter notes, or should I say higher notes that will be lighter. And when I said about, you know, great singers potentially having problems, that's something that Adele had in her songs. There's a lot of belting going on, which means that when you take your voice up, if I'm starting in chest voice here, and this is where I am pitch-wise talking, and I go, when I start getting higher, you can hear how that got lighter. I didn't take my chest voice up there, but belting is when you take your chest voice up to those higher notes. So if I'm going, so now you can hear that I'm taking this chest voice when I went like that as the top note. Now bringing this up, going so you can start to see how when I say it's obviously it's not going to sound like shouting because I'm kind of breathing in and adding a bit of support, taking a diaphragmatic breath, all that kind of stuff. So you can hold back the air and just put enough pressure in order to get those notes up there and kind of be in control of it, rather than you're just shouting out and just wrecking your vocal cords. So yeah, that's what singers are doing when they're belting. So it's taking a note that would be head voice, but bringing the chest up to that point. So, but this is the other thing, that singers who sound like they're belting, but they're using mixed voice, they're actually very light, very quiet, and they can add what sounds like rasp or distortion. It's actually more of a vocal fry sound, but this is the thing that when you're listening to a singer who's using mixed voice, they need the microphone, because if you get a sound that it is very quiet, but it sounds like it might be belting, or it might have that kind of sound to it because of their ability to maybe just lock into a bit of vocal fry, therefore our ears take that as rasp or kind of distortion, to use the effects term of guitar having a clean tone and then a distorted sound. The thing that they need is the volume of the mic, because if you're just standing and without a microphone and you're looking to fill a room, for example, then mixed voice isn't going to do that. You need the technology of the microphone and that to give you the volume to then make it sound how it should, or at least to give the illusion that it's actually really loud when in fact it isn't. So yeah, you've got those two kind of different ways, but I think most people probably, it would be great to do it with mixed voice because it means that it's a lot lighter on your vocal cords, but I think there are a lot of singers that just like to have that sensation that they are actually belting, but it's all about trying to do it in a safe way. So yeah, kind of gradually building it up and being able to feel, where you are in your range, and also when you get to a point where you can start to feel, this is straining a bit now, and doing this night after night, you'll know straight away that you won't be able to keep that up. You'll have to maybe say, for example, you're hitting a note at 100% chest voice, you're really going for it. If you're having to sing that over and over and over and over again, you might bring that down to 80 or 70% chest, and then allow a little bit of head voice in there, or maybe 60% chest, depending on how much you're going to be touring, how much you're going to be playing. It's a constant adjustment that needs to be made on the professional side of things if you are singing a lot. But yeah, that is it. Hopefully that made sense, and hopefully it makes sense as well why singers can injure their voices, because they're taking their chest voice up, higher really than it would normally go. And it's just obviously having the technique to do that, but being well practiced enough and being comfortable doing it, and knowing that you're not, if you're pushing your voice higher up in chest voice and you're getting any kind of discomfort or anything, then back off and make sure that you can take your chest voice up to a point where you know where it is. And this is so important, that every singer should know where their break is, and where the point is where you think, right, I can do that note in chest voice, I can do that note in chest voice, but when I get to this note, something's got to change. Otherwise, because if you start belting that note all the time, and then maybe a semitone higher and you're belting that, you already know that you're in territory here that's quite difficult anyway. So if you keep on doing it night after night after night, then there's a chance that you can damage your voice. But like I said, even great singers have had that in the past, where they've had to have vocal surgery because of just doing so many shows, and it's just the work that the vocal cords are going through night after night. You have to try and alleviate as much of as that. I was going to say as much of the heavy lifting as possible on your vocal cords. That's a constant balance and concession that people have to make, and singers have to make when they're in huge demand. So anyway, thank you for that, Mish Marie, over on PayPal, and hopefully that makes sense. So I think we've had another donation or two. It's Vicky who's donated $5. Thank you for that. And the message is, what is the difference between remastered and remixed? Rock on. So thank you for that. And I think this is something that I've explained before. So mixing is when you're in the studio and you're recording your vocals, drums, bass, all of your instruments in order to make your song. So let's say, for example, in the song, you want your vocal to be louder. So you go, okay, vocals, louder, and you literally push up the volume on the desk, on the mixer, in order to get a louder volume. And that's mixing it. So it's putting in, you've got all of your instruments, you've got everything, you've got the whole song, but you're now mixing the sounds together to sound how you want them to sound. And once you've done that, then that's the song done. So the volume's at exactly the right volume, or however loud you want it to be. The drums are at the right volume, the bass, the keys, backing vocals, whatever you might have on there. So you've got it all to the right level. And imagine that you now press save on your computer. That's now the song. And it's now saved as an MP3 or saved as a file. So now that exists. That is the song. That's what you've got, complete. And at that point, once the song is complete, then you get it mastered. So the mastered, I think my chair's making squeaky noises. But anyway, once you get it mastered, that's where the overall song is just being tweaked from an EQ perspective. And I've said before, it's an art form. It's why I don't do mastering myself. I just do the mixing side of it, because I think it's always better to have somebody mastering your songs who hasn't been mixing your songs, because they can hear it for what it is with fresh ears, rather than you now starting to tweak the overall song because you're so used to having heard the mix. You might start taking some of the decisions that you were making in the mix into the mastering, which you shouldn't really do. The mastering process should be, now we've got this whole song, and somebody listening to it and somebody who's doing the mastering might listen to it and think, oh yeah, this mix is great, but there's a resonant frequency at 160 hertz, for example. So they'll just do a bit of a cut at that frequency, and 160 hertz will be kind of down there in the bass range. So something that's potentially not might be a little bit muddy at that particular frequency for whatever reason, and that happens quite a lot, where people recording at home will have mixes that don't quite sound as good as maybe in their particular room, and then you take it to a treated room and it doesn't sound as good. There'll be resonant frequencies. So the mastering process is getting rid of that, but also boosting and cutting other frequencies. They might think that that hi-hat is a bit piercing, it's a bit over the top, and it doesn't even have to be too loud. It can just be too bright. So then they just take that down a little bit. And like I said, it's an art form for they're balancing now the whole track. And then what they do is, if you've got another track on an album and another track on an album, they get every song to sound similar to the previous ones, because that's another thing, that you can record one song, you can record another song, and it can sound totally different. And then the mastering process, they're now kind of balancing the whole project as the whole album. You might have 10 or 12 songs, and they're going to try and balance those all as best they can. So anyway, it's an art form, but mastering is nothing to do with mixing. They're not turning up the volume of the guitar solo or the vocals or backing vocals or the snare, for example. The only thing that they can do is boost frequencies. So if they find where the snare is, they can then boost that frequency, but they're not actually turning up the snare. They're boosting the frequency of where it lives. So anyway, mastering, if you imagine that, playing the instruments, recording everything, and mixing it together, getting all the right levels. Once it's done, then it's getting mastered. So when they say it's remixed and remastered, remixed means they go back into the studio and they literally load up the project if they've got it digitally, or they get the tapes out if it was back in analog days. So they now have everything on the desk, in the desk. They're going to be mixing it from scratch, and they've got all the channels that they're working with. And again, so they're boosting volumes of vocals, or taking out instruments and doing all that. But again, once they've finished the mixing process, it then gets mastered. So when you say about it being remastered, that isn't remixing. So it means all that's happening is somebody's just tweaking the EQ curve of that previous track. So that's what remastering is. And it might sound a little bit brighter, it might sound a little bit duller. Generally what will happen, especially with older songs that were recorded back in analog days, it might just be old recordings. So they've unfortunately, the quality might have just reduced a bit, but a lot of the old recordings can sound dull just because of the nature of being recorded on tape and being so old. So then you can take that song and you can remaster it, which would mean that you can now edit the EQ curve to add brightness to it. So I do kind of that because I'm looking at it from my perspective of an EQ curve. If you're looking this way, then the top end will be down here. So when I say about making it brighter, you're kind of boosting the top end of the EQ curve to give it kind of the illusion of headroom that's going on, that there's more space up there. So that's something that can be commonly done to older recordings, but that is remastering. So I don't know whether that's made any sense. Oh, Jeremy says, have you heard the master sound quality on Tidal? Would you say it's accurate to what you described? That is the only difference between Spotify and Tidal. So thank you for that. And no, I haven't checked out Tidal, so I can't comment on that, unfortunately. But yeah, generally what you'll have, and this is now getting into the discussion really of the sound quality rather than kind of mixing and remixing, because once you've done your mix and you get it mastered, your song will be what the song is. It's not being compressed by anything. It's going to have the topmost quality that it can be. So usually it's going to be in a WAV file, as it was with my album, but it's the sound which is lossless. So it's exactly as it was recorded at its highest quality. Now, when you get into having to upload things to the internet, and I guess nowadays it's not too bad because the speed of the internet increasing and everything, and now it's not too bad to get a WAV file uploaded. But back in the day, I remember trying to upload a 42 megabyte WAV file. Took me maybe half an hour to an hour, and my internet connection back then wasn't that bad. It's actually quite fast. But anyway, so in order to counteract that and to make it easier to send audio files, it would be compressed to MP3, for example, which is now a compressed format of the original song, the original quality. So it means that you've lost quality. In order to squash it down to a smaller file, it's effectively had to degrade the original audio quality. And this is what I say actually about pitch correction and auto-tune is it degrades, in order for the processing to happen, it degrades the original audio file. And that's why you hear the processed sound to it, because those are artifacts that are left there from that processing process. So same thing when you're talking about having a song, the original, and then compressing it into a smaller file, then yeah, if you've got a decent sound system, you'll be able to hear the difference between the original and then the compressed version, because the compressed version, you're going to lose quality, and you're going to lose particular parts of the sound that, for example, you might hear some artifacts on a crash or a hi-hat, at the top end, and that brightness might kind of disintegrate into I was going to say into like an 8-bit or 16-bit computer game. I don't know whether people remember like the Mega Drive and like the Game Boy, even before that, where they had such a small amount of data to work with that the sounds had to be really simple. And I guess it's effectively the pixelated version of music, where now graphics are amazing and they look human-like, whereas back in the day somebody's face would have just been like a cube on top of another cube, which was their body, because that's all they had to work with the amount of space and memory. So when you're compressing audio files, it's very much like the pixelated version, or the old school computer game version of the sound. So you might be able to hear parts in there that you think, you can hear the lack of quality in the file that you're listening to, in the audio that you're listening to. But anyway, I haven't checked out Tidal, so I have to do that at some point, put it on my to-do list. But anyway, thank you Ginny as well for this $5 donation. The message is, Jeremy wants to know if you have ever tested to see how far up you can sing. How did it affect your voice? Thanks. Generally, because I've always approached it in the way of trying to be careful with it. With I think probably the highest notes on some of my covers would be in and around E5, so that's 12th fret of your high E string for guitar players, and I mean maybe even I think with one of the Dokken tunes, there's some crazy stuff going on there, and it might have been an F sharp 5 maybe up there. I don't think G5, but it might have been, I don't know. Now the thing is about, like, if I'm singing notes up that high, it's a totally different thought process, because that's not really my range. If I'm pushing my chest voice, for example, I'll do that probably to A4. So it means that that's the top end of the male tenor range. So there I feel like, well, I could probably get away with doing that, but I know that I'm still taking a bit of a liberty with my own voice. And I think, well, G4, it would be more comfortable. So yeah, having that as the high note being belted. But I know that if I wanted to, I could take it to A4. And I mean, all of these notes, the important thing to understand is that when you're talking about the notes that you're singing those after warming up your voice. Like here, just sitting and talking, I'm not warming up my voice. So it means that if I were to try and hit, and I probably would be able to hit an A4 in chest voice, but I mean, my example early probably went up to, I don't know, maybe G4. I can't remember kind of how far I went up, but it would have been around there, maybe F or G4. So I know that, that doing an A4 without being warmed up, I know that I could probably do it, but then, sensibly you think, well, no, you should really warm up if you're going to be doing that. And exactly the same thing for singing ridiculously high notes, which tend to be more of a head voice thing. And this is the other thing with backing vocals that are really high, like if you're doing Dokken or something like that, it doesn't matter now about having the chest voice in there, because when you're listening to singers, you're listening to the lead vocal, you're not really listening to the backing vocalist and what their voices sound like on their own, because it's just obviously it's the backing, but it's just the layer that is in the background that is just supporting the main voice in the middle, which is the lead vocal. So generally, if I'm starting to have to sing up really high, it just gets really thin, the sound. So rather than having a sound like I'm talking with here, where I've got chest voice in there, if I now go that's now got no chest voice in. So if I'm going and making a noise like that, it sounds ridiculous. But if I'm going and trying to do that with the chest voice, you're going to hit a ceiling. Whereas when I start to get up high, it starts to take on that more of that personality. Obviously, that was an example. So I think if you were singing like that in the background, people say, "What is that backing singer doing?" But it's knowing how to get your voice to particular places and what you have to do, and how you have to kind of change it in order to allow it to hit particular notes. But the most important thing is to make sure that you're fully warmed up. Like now, for example, I wouldn't dream of trying to hit an E5, because I know that I have to be warmed up to do that. You've got to go through your scales and gradually get up to that point so that you feel, okay, right now I'm warmed up, I'm ready to do it. And, it's very much like working out, that you wouldn't just suddenly go and lift something really heavy, because you're going to injure yourself. You've got to gradually build up to it, and then get yourself mentally prepared, especially if you're lifting a lot of weight. But same thing vocally, that you've got to be comfortable with that. So yeah, but I don't sing those kinds of notes regularly at all. I think actually in a lot of the analysis videos, they do tend to all be around kind of G4, A4, B4, C5. So yeah, if I am ever demonstrating something, you'll probably notice how when it gets up to B4, C5, I will go into a lighter kind of head voice sound, or even like a and get a little bit airy with it, because I know that, well, my voice isn't warmed up, so I'm not going to be kind of attempting to belt those notes when I'm just talking about a performance. But I think the other, lower in the range, if there's a male singer who is belting, then I'll kind of give a bit of an example, but I wouldn't be doing anything to damage my voice. So anyway, Vince says, can you show those notes on your guitar? So I'll grab the guitar. This will be a very early... Oh, hang on. It's almost midnight. I was going to say it's a very early grab of the guitar. So, high... And the thing is, if you play guitar and you start singing, it's a really good way to know where you are. So when I said about, so we've got our high E string. This is an E4. So when I was demonstrating earlier, going so there, that's something that I'm using chest voice there and is all right. I don't know how high I went earlier, but going so now, I mean, that's the A4. So if I were warmed up, like I said, this, I still think that I'm taking a bit of a liberty, but G4 would be absolutely fine. Now, if I keep on going, like up here, that's the E5. That's what I was talking about. That's, if you imagine that, even though I just kind of sang this, if you imagine that all of this up here, that's where you got to make sure that your voice is warmed up, or at least I do. I know that some people can access, their falsetto register, for example, and aren't going to be using head voice and just flip over to that. But that's not something that I've never done with my voice. I've never really been able to get into my falsetto register, or I have recently, but not to the point of being able to control it or make it sound like head voice. Give it the power that you need, because sometimes when you are recording backing vocals, you will be able to tell that it's a falsetto sound and it sounds a bit weak. So yeah, doing that, if I was kind of here and go and that's not falsetto, by the way, that's just my head voice, but I'm putting air through my vocal cords as well, so kind of so and I mean, the thing is, even there, that's a D5, but I'm putting air in the sound in order to give that note without damaging my vocal cords. Like if I now suddenly went into doing a D5, I know that I wouldn't want to risk it, because I think, well, yeah, what if it kind of hurts a bit, or generally you want to make sure that you're always warmed up, and you will be if you're going into the studio and you're doing harmony lines that are very high up. You're warming up for that. So yeah, and you'll know on when you're warming up kind of where your voice is, what you might have to do in order to access it, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. Anyway, so those are the notes, but here, that's the A4, so that's the top end of the male tenor range. I'm not a tenor, but turn on the amplifier. That could be good. Oh, look, we've got a hair here. So, yeah. Can you hear this now? So, yeah, hopefully you can hear this now. All right, now it's coming through. So, yeah, and also hopefully my pitch was close enough so that when I went, like that, you could hear that. That's where I was. And then up here when I went, like that, putting air through it. And see, even then going, I can feel, if I wanted a more connected sound than that, and hopefully you can hear how it's a lot thinner, that there, I could do it without the air in there, but I'm not going to put everyone in my neighborhood through that, because it's actually a lot louder as well in order to get the vocal cords to connect. So anyway, yeah, but I mean, I would never be singing up here anyway, only if it was a designated harmony line that I was going to be singing. So generally here and down at the G4, E4, I think most guys, like I said, I'm not a tenor, so it means that coming up to A4 in chest voice, yeah, it's kind of, like I said, taking a bit of a liberty, but I can do that. I find that, yeah, the G4 is a little bit easier. The E, I think most guys, when they get up to the E, they get to there, they go, and it starts to sound like that, more of a head voice sound. So they get lighter in order to ascend. But yeah, but this is where, in the example that I was giving about belting, that's where instead of getting lighter here and going, instead of going, that sound would be, like that. So yeah, obviously a lot more projection and louder and more resembling resembling a shout rather than like if you did that, nobody's really gonna bother about listening to whatever's going on. Whereas if you went and like that, obviously you'd wake everybody up in the neighbourhood, which I've probably just done now, but probably clipped on the microphone. But that sound gets attention, so that's why belting is one of those things that yeah, back in the day, the producers would always push their singers to the top of their range where they should really be in chest voice, but they'll make them belt it to get that emotional reaction from the listener and just to get that particular tone in a singer's voice. So anyway, that was that. So where are we? So that was Vince made that initial question in the live chat room. But yeah, but in terms of testing how far up, I think everybody knows how far their voice goes if they've done it. Going through notes and knowing the notes, and I mean there'll be notes that I've hit, and I say notes that I've hit. There have been noises that I've made with my vocal cords that have been ridiculous, but it's not singing. So I know my range. I know what I can sing. I know that, if I'm just being stupid watching TV, I might make a squeak of a sound and maybe hold that squeak. And I'll think, oh, what was that? And I'll go to my guitar and it'll be something stupid. It might even be off the fretboard because it's almost like in the whistle register because it's so stupid. But that's not something that I can use vocally. So when people say, oh, I've got a range of 2 octaves, 3 octaves, 4 octaves, 5 octaves. It's all got to be usable. It's got to, and this is without pitch correction or auto tune, because I have seen people saying that, oh, I've got a 6 octave range, and they're doing their video, and they've pitch corrected their vocal. So it's not really usable range, but obviously it's all about getting views and doing whatever they can to get as many views as possible. But yeah, singing and range has got to be your usable range, because I know that kind of up here I have achieved those notes in the context of singing. Then I think, well, that is usable range, and yeah, I'm kind of quite happy with that. And I'd say in terms of how low down I go, I can't really get too far down compared to most. And again, I would say that I mean that might be a usable note. The G. Yeah, if I'm now trying to do an E down at the bottom, which would be the E2, singing, that's not singing to me. Going, technically it is. That is an E2. But that's not singing. But actually, if I wanted to, if I was doing something and I didn't care about using pitch correction, auto-tune, I could get really close to the microphone, make that sound on an E2, and just pitch correct it, bump up the volume, add reverb to it, and then that would be part of my range. So if I'm now saying, so I've had an E2 there, so then the E3, the E4, the E5, so I could say that, well, I've gone from E2, E3, E4, E5. So, but would I say that I've got, what, a 4 octave range, 3 or 4 octave range? No, I wouldn't, because I know that, well, that's not really singing. I could pitch correct it to make it actually sound like singing, but yeah, I'm not really into doing all that, as you guys know. I've never sung anything down here for reference, because, yeah, I think it'd be more of a Barry White kind of thing, but just not the way that my voice works. So there we go. Anyway, that is that. Right, we will be jumping into the cover video pretty soon. There have been a couple of donations in the PayPal window, and Karen's donated £5.65, so thank you for that. And this is a long message. Hi Phil, I just ordered a new guitar strap for my electric acoustic which came with guitar picks. I've also ordered new strings. Daddario, I don't remember if you've been asked this question. What gauge of guitar picks and guitar strings do you prefer to use and why? From what I've been told, thicker guitar picks are more likely to break the strings. What's your take? Thanks for being a great teacher and for all you do. Cheers, Karen. So thank you for that. And yeah, I've never heard that about picks breaking strings. Strings generally are just gonna break whenever they decide that they're gonna break, due to that, you know, that tension over time and it getting past the point of tension that it can take. So yeah, if you're doing loads of bends, for example, yeah, I wouldn't worry about the pick. I'd more think about, you know, if you're bending the strings a lot and if you're doing big bends a lot of the time, like maybe bends that go more than a tone in pitch. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about the pick. Generally, thicker picks you can use if you are going to be playing more aggressively. You know, if you're going like that alternate pick. So yeah, you might be able to hear the pick. I've got a bit of delay on this, so it might not make it as clear. But when you're picking the string, if you're picking it quickly, then the thicker picks means that they don't bend after picking the string, and you don't want your pick to bend if you're doing alternate picking or fast kind of playing. Having a softer pick is, you know, okay if you're just playing and you don't want that aggressive sound to it. Generally, I mean, I used to have I think 0.83 of a millimeter, and then I don't know what this is, maybe 1 millimeter, maybe 1.1. So I then started to get into kind of thicker picks, just because I wanted the option of having more aggressive sounds. But I felt that if I wanted to be lighter with it, with the pick, then I could do. But then if I wanted to be more aggressive with it, obviously a softer pick would bend and you wouldn't get as aggressive a sound. So anyway, yeah, in terms of pick, I think if you can go from, you know, somewhere in between those two. So probably the 0.83 of a millimeter you can get. That'll be fine for kind of both things. If you're not too worried about getting kind of super fast with playing. But you will be able to take a thicker pick and play softly, but you won't be able to take a soft pick and play more aggressively, because it will just flop around and it'll be a bit, you know, it just won't give you the volume that you want or the aggressiveness that you want. But yeah, gauge of strings. Well, I've been an Ernie Ball guy for I say years, probably since I first started playing, and I had Ernie Ball Super Slinkies, which are 9 gauge strings in the pink packet, bright pink packet. So yeah, that's generally what I would have. In terms of acoustic strings, I'd get Martin, and probably 10s, maybe 10 gauge, maybe 11 gauge, but I've got a feeling there might be 10s. So yeah, a light string on acoustic guitar. But yeah, and this is it, you want to make sure that you're buying acoustic guitar strings and electric guitar strings. Don't put electric guitar strings on an acoustic, so because you won't get the same sound. So generally, yeah, if you're playing acoustic guitar, yeah, if you use 10s, I've always found that just the playability is worth it for me. Obviously I don't want to make playing any harder than it has to be, especially for your own physiology. There'll be some guys and girls who have got big hands and, you know, really strong fingers, and they can push down the strings, and they need a heavier gauge string. Whereas if you've not got huge hands, then yeah, just go for whatever is the most comfortable. I always see it's almost like, in order to be a good player, you've got to play with 11s or 12s or 13s. it's like, well, no, you've got to play with the strings that suit your physiology. It's mental to say that you have to be playing with a particular gauge and totally disregard your own physiology. The thing is, people will hear like Stevie Ray Vaughan, used to play with 13s or 12s, and I think, oh yeah, that's that's what great players should be using because he used those. It's like, well, no, that's the weight of the string. If you look at Stevie's hands, he had massive hands. For the size of the guy he was, he had massive hands and sausage fingers. So, obviously, he had more flexibility than a sausage. But the point is that he was using those strings not because they were really difficult to play, it's because of what suited his physiology, that he liked using those strings. So yeah, that's what I would say. Just play with strings that suit your physiology, because I don't get this whole thing that, oh yeah, you've got to play with heavier strings. I mean, I accept that, yeah, you could say that if you really want a particular sound that you get from a heavy string, then yeah, sacrifice your playing to get that sound. But if you want to just play the guitar to the utmost of your ability, then use the strings that allow you to do that. And if you can find that balance between those two, then that's all you're looking for. Connie's donated £20. Thank you for that. And the message is, hi Phil, do you think a person who is less experienced at reading the pitch graph might think that Martina McBride's Oh Holy Night was pitch corrected rather than a natural voice or natural vocal? Thanks, Connie. So thank you for that. And yeah, probably because she was so good that she was really close to the lines. But I guess this is pitch correction in a nutshell, is that we're not looking at a voice that's being calibrated, we're looking at an amazing voice. So the thing that has been designed to try and imitate a great voice is going to start looking like the great voice, because that's what they're trying to do. That's the whole point of it. So it's not really that the voice is looking, the natural voice looks like it's been pitch corrected. It's that the pitch corrected vocals are imitating the great voice. So yeah, but I think people all the time mistakenly think that something's pitch corrected just because a singer is close to a line. And generally, I mean, even now, I'm thinking of the analysis videos that I've done recently. Even now, the pitch corrected vocals, it will spend so much longer on A440 than even Martina's voice. And that's what's so stupid, is that they're trying to copy what Martina can do, but they're still thinking, oh well, she's really close to the line, so let's get ours really close to the line, and then they put it on the line. And it's like, well no, she was on the line, then she was off the line for a bit, and then she went flat and was below the line. And they're not doing that yet, because that is going to sound weird. And when I said in that video about it's going to be almost impossible, I don't know whether it will be or not in the future, to imitate a great voice, because you would have to put all the imperfection in there. But how do you know where to move it? Like, how do you know where the imperfection should be? It's impossible to know that. And if you do start moving it flat, guess what? It's going to sound flat rather than having the expression in it so that it doesn't sound flat. So yeah, I don't know how they'll ever get over that in the future. But it also helps that if you, like, I've looked at Martina's voice before, and I know that, and this is something that people should do anyway, if they see somebody's vocal and think, oh, I think that's pitch corrected, you can't say that, or you can say you think it's pitch corrected, but you can't state that it is or not until you have been through lots of their other performances. And I know Martina's voice very well because I've analysed it in the past. So I know that she is that accurate. And you can also hear that there's no processing on that voice. It's a natural vocal. So yeah, if people are going to go out there and say, oh, this is pitch corrected, you can't say that until you have built up their voice, and it's almost like a unique profile of their voice to know what their voice is like. So then when they produce another performance that absolutely mirrors 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other performances that you've heard that are unedited, if it's the same, then you think, well, yeah, it's the same, it's consistent. Whereas if you have 4, 5, 6, 7 performances that are all not very accurate, and then you've got one that's on the lines, you know, all the time or the majority of the time, then you think, well, that's the anomaly. So you can say, well, there's something different in this particular vocal that doesn't ring true in all of their other performances. So yeah, you've got to build up that unique singer ID almost to know. And I know that a lot of people just throw out accusations without actually doing any research, but you've got to have researched the voice that you're listening to, and you can't just start saying, oh yeah, this, and you can't just say, oh yeah, this is mimed, this is lip synced, pitch corrected, auto-tuned, unless you are going to prove it, which is why I show everything on screen. But with the whole miming lip sync thing, that's really easy to prove it if you are doing that, because you can get the audio file that you are, I guess, accusing the person of miming or lip syncing to. You can get that, and you can match it up and put it over the top of the other audio file, and it will match if it's the same. So yeah, I think a lot of people just make accusations and don't really show proof. And I think that's maybe where some of the comments that I get on my channel, people don't realize that, no, I'm actually showing you proof. It's not just my opinion or me thinking something's happening. I'm showing you exactly what's going on. So anyway, yeah, thank you for that, Connie. I think, yeah, looking at Martina's vocal lines and her pitch on screen, it's that Karen Carpenter example where she is really accurate, but it's a human voice, so it's not accurate all the time. And I point out in the video the resets where that hasn't been calibrated, because it's not calibrated. None of it is. It's just a great voice. And yeah, when you do zoom in, more often than not, it won't just be on that line all the time. There'll be variations to the line that we're looking at. Anyway, thank you for that, Connie. Right, we are going to be jumping into Hotel California by the look of it. My version of this. Elaine says TikTok and donated $2, so thank you for that. I'll jump into this, and then we'll have Picture Corner, and we have hit the goal for tonight of 400, so we will keep the guitar out and have a jam after this. So I'll see you guys in a second. Rock!
On the dark desert highway, the cool wind in my hair, warm smell of colitas rising up through the air. Up ahead in the distance, I saw a shimmering light. My head grew heavy and my sight grew dim. I had to stop for the night. Then she stood in the doorway. I heard the mission bell. And I was thinking to myself, this could be heaven or this could be hell. Then she lit up a candle and showed me the way. There were voices down the corridor. I thought I heard them say, welcome to the Hotel California. Such a they're stealing knives, but they just can't kill the beast. Last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Relax, said the night man, we're programmed to receive. You can check out anytime you like, but you may never leave.
And there we have it. That was my version of Hotel California. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and thank you for voting for that as tonight's cover video. Right, let's jump into Picture Corner before I forget. And it's just going to be a couple of pictures tonight, both on the same theme, I do believe. And let's see where this actually shows up on screen. Oh, it's off to the right hand side. Oh, we'll just deal with that for tonight. So this is Lynn, and Lynn is wearing her Wings Pegasus t-shirt with Pluto, and this is him pre having a bath apparently, and this is him post having a bath. So there we go. Thank you for sending that in and for linking me to it. Oh, and the message was the well water was colder than he or I expected, but drying off in the sunshine and eating clover, him, not me, made it worthwhile. So thank you for that, and thank you, Laura, for linking me to that particular picture for tonight's Picture Corner. And that is it for tonight. So back to here, and Jan has donated 50 Norwegian kroner, thank you for that, and says, turn Wandering Star with Lee Marvin from 33 RPM to 78 for Smurf sound. That's pitch corrected, so thank you for that. And yeah, very much the, the Chipmunks sound, that cartoon where their voice is really high, just, speed up. Now kind of speeding up the record. Now you just do it all digitally. You can just speed it up, and it still will have that same effect of obviously making it go really high and really tinny sounding and really thin. So anyway, thank you for that. Right. Microphone's still on from earlier, so I don't have to worry about that. And where are we? The backing track is 6 minutes and 37 seconds. I should have looked at that before. So right, that's there. Zoom out. Where's the red dude? There he is. Right, zoomed out. Click on this. Advert. Wait for this. So skip. Right, this is hard rock backing track in F sharp minor, and this is from Rust Elements. That's RUST Elements on YouTube. So hopefully I can hear this. Let me know what this sounds like. Oh, right, I've got it. One of those strings sounds a little bit off tuning wise, but we'll go with it. I was watching the screen for ages thinking there has got to be... I thought, well, there's got to be an ending somewhere because it feels like I've been playing for ages. But there we go. That was it. It actually went on for a lot longer than I was expecting. So that was Hard Rock backing track in F sharp minor. And that was from Rust Elements. And that's R-U-S-T on YouTube. So... yes, you guys can check that out if you want to have a jam along to it yourselves. And yeah, I think it was just seemingly just the same thing over and over and over again, but that was all fine. Right, and let me sort that out, which is done over there. I was getting the echo coming out of the speakers. So I think, right, we are now up to date and ready to get on with our, well, here it's actually Sunday morning, but get on with our Saturday nights, wherever you're watching this from, whatever the time is where you are. So all that's left for me to say is to try and stay as safe and as sane as possible in this crazy world in which we live. I'm going to be here with another video tomorrow night, so look out for that one. Live streaming Tuesday night, 11 PM Greenwich Mean Time, as always. So if you can join me then, it would be very much appreciated. But yes, have a great weekend, and I'll catch you guys at the next one. Rock!